Hello and welcome back to Guided Souls. I'm your host, Katie, and I'm so excited to be back here for another week with you guys. If you prefer to watch instead of listen, you can head on over to my YouTube channel at Guided Soul Katie, and I'll also put the link in the show notes. I'm super excited. Today we are doing part 2 of how to talk to dead people, and specifically how to talk to your dead people, meaning your past loved ones. Again, I promise that's the last time I will call them dead people. Except if you haven't listened to last week's episode yet, I would highly encourage you do that because I'm going to be building off of concepts that we talked about in last week's episode. And before I dive in, I don't know if anyone else is experiencing like the tech issues that come with Mercury retrograde. It's kind of been at a bay for me, but yesterday it felt like everything just came to a head. So this is my second time recording this, but when I recorded it yesterday, the audio just came out so weird and it was glitchy. So I've tested it. I've got a new mic. Hopefully this, goes well. And when stuff like that happens, I feel like you just got to walk away sometimes. So I apologize. This is coming out later in the day on Wednesday, but I wanted to make sure it was the best quality possible. So last week we talked about the top 2 things that have helped me to connect with my past loved ones, which is giving them unwavering faith and learning about their language, both through looking for signs and understanding their communication style. And I also want to say that I do want to reiterate, like, I fully believe that anyone is able to connect with their own past loved ones. I feel that some people are given mediumship abilities where they're able to connect with other people's past loved ones, but I do not think that I am special in the fact that I can connect with my past loved ones. And there are so many souls out there who are so excited to speak with their loved ones here on earth. And so honestly, for me, I hope that this reaches people who have been wanting to connect with their past loved ones, because whoever this reaches, I promise you, your past loved one is so excited to connect with you. And they are like giddy just by the fact that you're listening to this or watching this right now. And I feel like they want me to take this opportunity to thank you for putting time and effort into wanting to connect with them. I definitely talk about how important it is to show them gratitude for giving you signs. And so they want to show you some gratitude in return. And I hope that you took the last week to give your past loved one unwavering faith, to look for signs and to learn their communication style. And hopefully you are ready for today's tips as well. So without further ado, I will go ahead and jump in. So the number 3 thing that has really helped me to be able to connect with my past loved ones is to do whatever my intuition tells me to do. And I know that sounds obvious, but this is honestly a very good practice to do in general when you're trying to strengthen your intuition, listen to your higher self, your spirit team, and just really wanting to tap into your own spiritual abilities, specifically as it pertains to your life. Nothing is a coincidence. The things that we are drawn to are not a coincidence, and especially the things that we are drawn to that are not a part of our normal day-to-day. So if you feel drawn to go to a certain coffee shop, to drive a different way to work, to put on the radio instead of your own music, there is likely a reason for that. And so many of the signs that we receive from our past loved ones are all about being in the right place at the right time. And so to do that, a lot of times they will give us these little intuitive nudges to put us in that right place at the right time so that they can give us this sign. And I'd like to say, if you do follow your intuition and go someplace or do something and you don't see a sign, try not to get discouraged. I know that can be discouraging, especially if you're like, ooh, I'm listening to my intuition. Let me see what's going to be here for me. But like I said, you and your past loved one are learning this language together. And so if you don't see a sign, there are 2 things that might be happening. One, you may not be used to looking for the specific type of sign that your past loved one is trying to give you. So it could be something as simple as getting the total on a receipt and the at the bottom it's 11.11, or something costs 143, like $1.43, which is, 143 is means I love you, something like that. Or you drive a different route to work and there's a bumper sticker that has like a saying that they always used to say, or a rainbow if that's a sign for you and you don't quite see it. Or you turn on the radio and you're listening for a song that reminds you of them, but you're missing a song that has lyrics in it that has a specific message for you. And I don't say that in terms of, wanting you to get down on yourself for not being able to see them. It's just practicing and learning the language together. So you will start to pick up on those things, even if they are more subtle. And then at the same time, your past loved one is also learning to strengthen their communication as well. So, one thing that I mentioned in the last episode was if our past loved ones and our guides don't think we're listening, they're not going to send us messages. And so, if we are the type of person who has gone a long time without listening, like I did, I'm fully owning that I went a very long time without listening to any signs. It is going to take a while for your past loved one to recognize, oh, wait, they're listening. Oh my gosh, I gave them this intuitive pull to go here and they did it. Okay, now it's go time. It's like they are learning too. And so the more that you are able to look for their nuanced signs, they are able to see that you are trusting them and giving them that faith, and they will be able to come through louder and more obviously. And I also want to put in again, like the idea that you could also just feel their presence. It doesn't necessarily have to be something outside of you. It could be like you see something funny, like a joke that they would think is funny, and you feel them like laughing with you. That's the type of thing that I know is more nuanced, and it's hard to, accept that as being our past loved ones. But if we can, that is when we're able to live our lives as if they are just all around us all the time. And they are able to be all around us all the time because we are so zoned in to the messages that they are giving us. It's funny, as I'm in the middle of recording this, I'm still having tech issues. Like my internet just went out. So I don't know what is. Truly, honestly, the universe is trying to show me something. I feel like maybe I just need to unplug after I do this, but yeah, we're hopefully going to get through the rest of it without having more tech issues. And the fourth thing that really helped me to be able to connect with my past loved ones is being out in nature. And I cannot overemphasize this one enough. The most profound messages and feelings that I've received from being with my dad have all happened out in nature, as well as the deepest creative breakthroughs and connections with my higher self and my spirit team. Like, nature is so healing. And I've brought this up on this podcast before, but I think in terms of connecting with the 5D and being spiritual, a lot of people will get lost in wanting to be in the 5D and go someplace else. And we don't realize how helpful it can be to really focus on being in the 3D and being present in the moment. And I believe every soul has energy. Every soul leaves energy behind. And so by being out in nature in the 3D, with your feet planted on the ground, it can really help you to tap into their energy, because I fully believe that once you're here on earth, your energy is built into the tapestry that is the world for forever. And so if you think of the tapestry of the world like a grid, if you're walking on it, you're more easily going to be able to connect in with them. I do also think that going on a walk specifically can be so helpful, because it's similar to sort of those mindless type of activities like putting away the dishes or folding laundry, where you just kind of go on autopilot. Or, when you're in the shower, people will say they have a lot of like spiritual breakthroughs or creative breakthroughs when they're in the shower doing something like that. It's because we're doing something that doesn't require our brains to focus on it. And so it's able to just kind of go wherever our subconscious is having it go. And that's the same thing with being on a walk. Like, you know how to walk. It doesn't take a lot of brain power to do that, especially if you're going on a route that you've been on before. And you're able to just kind of let your mind wander to wherever it needs to go. So, what I like to do is at the beginning of a walk, if I specifically want to connect with a past loved one, I will set that intention prior to the walk. And then I will do my best to clear my mind and just see what comes through. Now, sometimes when you do that, your mind will start racing and focusing on all the things that you have to do that day. And it's clear that that's not what your past loved one is trying to tell you. So when that happens, try to breathe and really focus on your feet just being on the earth. Look at the soil down beneath you. Look at the trees. Kind of come back to the present moment as a way to clear your mind and sort of have a reset. But if what you end up thinking about is a specific situation in your life that's been troubling or something like that, but it feels like it's almost like a undoing of a knot, let that happen, because the guidance from your past loved one may be on a specific situation in your life that they are guiding you on. And so just because it's not necessarily all about them, you can still receive their guidance for a specific situation in your life. And again, anytime you feel your mind start to wander in a place that doesn't really have much meaning, you can try and come back to the present moment by focusing on the things around you and the soil beneath your feet. I also like to just give gratitude to Mother Earth and the different elements in nature whenever I'm walking. I feel that it helps me get into a mode of receiving. Whenever we practice gratitude, we are automatically putting ourselves in a space to receive more. And in this instance, that receiving more can be messages from your past loved one. This is also a really, really beautiful and potent time to look for signs from your past loved one. So often signs come from being in the right place at the right time, but it's also about being in a place with a lot of moving parts. So when you think about all of the different things in nature that are moving and you are also moving, there could be a specific type of tree or flower that reminds you of them. Maybe a butterfly lands really close to you. Maybe you see a deer that you don't normally see, or a rock that's shaped like a heart, or you find a dime or something like that. There's just so many possibilities that you could come across in nature. And that's going to be a lot more limited if we're just in our home, kind of in a static environment where things are not moving. It's a lot more difficult for them to put specific signs in our face when we are in a static environment such as our home. But if we are walking out in nature where things are always moving, it's a lot easier for them to place us in a specific spot with another thing that is moving or that will catch our attention. It doesn't necessarily have to be moving, but we can walk across it. Again, if you find a dime, they are guiding you towards that path, and you're able to look down at the right moment to see the dime, things like that. You can also see if you happen to have any creative breakthroughs or ideas, or if you just really feel their presence within you. In the last episode, I mentioned that two of the most profound times I have felt my dad's presence were walking in nature, one on a beach and one when I was snowshoeing. And there wasn't any particular sign that I saw that made me go, oh, my dad is here. It was this overwhelming feeling inside of me that his presence was there, that it brought me to tears. And so open your mind to the fact that the biggest signs may not be external. It may just be you internally feeling their presence. And this will feel like something different in your body. For me, it feels like a really strong feeling in my chest, in my heart, kind of a warmth. And at first, it almost felt like the feeling of anxiety. And so it was hard to separate the two, but it's this feeling of strength in your chest versus, like the anxiety will usually give you like a beating in your chest or chest pains. This felt more like a strength. So it doesn't have to feel that way for you. When you feel it, you will know what it feels like. And then whenever you feel that feeling, you'll know that that is your past loved one coming into you. And again, it may be in words that you cannot describe. You just get this overwhelming feeling that they're with you, so much so that it brings you to tears. Being by running water can also help. It helps with the flow of ideas. And so if you're looking at running water, you can kind of imagine that there are ideas running and flowing through your mind. And so just as easily, it can clear away that clutter and bring in messages from your past loved one. It's also having a certain sound that will again help you drown out the noise of your day to day and the clutter that's in your mind. So I mentioned last week listening to white noise while you're trying to connect in with your loved one. And it's a similar thing when you're listening to the running water of a creek or a river or the waves of an ocean. You're able to just kind of have that drown out the clutter of your day to day and make space for your past loved one to come in. And that's really what a lot of this is about. It's learning how to create a space, a container in your mind that your past loved one is then able to come in and to utilize in order to give you a message. And if our minds are really cluttered and busy and loud, it's going to be a lot harder for them to come through than if we're able to slow down, clear our minds, open a space, and allow them to come in. And I also find it really helpful to touch elements in nature. I like to sit on a rock and place my hands on the rock and just try to breathe in with Mother Nature. It'll be a slow, strong breath, but it's definitely possible to breathe with the earth. And like I said, their energy is here still in the tapestry of the earth. So by doing that, you are naturally tapping into their energy as well. And the fifth and final thing that has really helped me to connect with my past loved ones is actually a combination of different modalities that you can use to connect in with them. So I recognize that not everyone is going to resonate with what I've shared so far. So you can try some of these if those don't seem to quite fit with you. These are not necessarily my go-to ways of connecting with my past loved ones, but they have definitely been helpful at times. I use them at times, and I also know a lot of other people that use them, so they may be helpful to you as well. And the first one is automatic writing. And so I'm much better at speaking than writing. When I write, it feels like my hand cramps, but I know that so many people love to journal. It's very healing, and there is a reason for that. So you can apply that same type of practice to connect with your past loved one. But instead of writing your own thoughts, you are going to set the intention that you would like to connect with your past loved one. So I would honestly just ask them either out loud or in your head, hi, Dad, I'm hoping to receive a message from you today. I now ask that you use this pen and paper to deliver a message to me. And then what you will do is you will write whatever comes to mind. And this may, again, be hard to feel like and trust that it is your past loved one's words coming through, because it's not like you're going to write them without thinking them first, but the thought will be like a word comes into your head and you write it. It'll be much quicker and it will feel different than your normal writing process. You won't have to think about what to write. The words will come to you in your mind, but it's not like you are struggling to think of them. So that can be a really helpful way, especially if your loved one really finds specific words to be helpful, or if you use writing often as a coping mechanism or a way to work through different things in your life, then this could be a really powerful tool for you. The next one that I utilize are getting messages through oracle cards or tarot cards. So I have one specific tarot deck that for some reason I feel like the energy of my dad is present in it, and I'm able to receive messages from him in that way. It's just something that one day I asked, "Hey dad, I would like to receive a message from you using this tarot deck." And then it really felt like I was. And so I kept on using that tarot deck specifically to receive messages from him. I also find his energy to be very similar to the King of Cups. And so whenever I'm doing a reading and I see the King of Cups pop out, it's just a confirmation that he is there with me and he is delivering this message to me. But it doesn't have to be tarot. If you prefer to use oracle cards that don't take a learning process, like learning tarot does take a while, oracle cards are really easy in that there's a lot of different types, and they usually come with a booklet that tells you exactly what each card means. And so you can just pull a card and ask for a message from them before you pull it, see what it says, and take that as a message from them. And in terms of determining what decks you should buy or what decks might have their energy, I would go back to do whatever your intuition tells you to do. I do not have a fancy way of picking out card decks. I seriously go onto Amazon and just like type in a few words of a type of card deck that I'm looking for. I see what pops up and then I go with whichever one is, catching my attention or that I feel drawn to. And so far that has worked for me every time. I have seen a couple past loved ones specific oracle decks. I did not find them to look super helpful, but they may look helpful to you. But you could get, angel cards, oracle decks specifically relating to nature. If your past loved one, really connected to nature, different things like that. So just experiment and see if there's a specific like spiritual tool or deck that you feel drawn to using in order to connect with them. You can also speak out loud to them. So a lot of times all of these things that I'm saying are things that I'm, actually setting the intention in my mind, but it can be really helpful to speak it out into existence, into the 3D. So if you have a day where you are by yourself and someone's not going to look at you like you're crazy because you're talking to no one, instead of setting intentions in your mind and asking questions in your mind, you can ask them out loud. I also find that holding on to their objects while trying to connect with them can be really helpful in terms of connecting to their energy. Like I said, I fully believe that their energy is still here on earth. So if we are holding an object that they wore, that they had, that they loved, or even that they gave to us, we are able to tap into their specific energy a lot more deeply. And then lastly, a tool that I use a lot when I am connecting with other people's past loved ones will be to scribble. So I will just have a pad of paper and a pen, and I'll place my hand over my heart, close my eyes, and scribble. And I really think it's, again, a way of just clearing our minds so that we are able to make space for that past loved one to come in. But this can absolutely be applied to connecting with your past loved one as well. So I think that there's just a combination of things that you can try and experiment with and feel what feels right, feel what helps them come in more strongly, what works for you. And that's the beauty of this, is there is really no right or wrong way to do it. You are creating a language with your past loved one, and it is unique to you and your past loved one, which is beautiful. So those are the top 5 things that really, honestly, changed my life in terms of being able to connect with my past loved ones. And I know that sounds a little bit dramatic, but how I lived before I was able to connect with my dad versus after is totally different. I feel like I have this whole different outlook on life that is a lot more positive. I have a lot more gratitude. I feel like I have a lot more guidance. I'm not so lost. Don't get me wrong, I still feel lost quite a bit of the time, but I'm not so lost. And it's just really helped me to, I guess, change my whole outlook on life. So, especially if you are someone who has lost someone really close to you and that has impacted your life in a very heavy way, I think that starting to learn how to connect with that past loved one on a deeper level will be life changing for you. And if you are still in the boat of having a lot of doubt, I'll just say number one, I see you, I feel you, it's normal. Try not to be down on yourself. But one thing that helped me in the very beginning was thinking, okay, what if I believe this and I'm wrong? What if I believe this, but I'm just being delusional and it's not true? Well, there's no way for me to know that it's not true. So I could either live my life feeling like my dad is around me and having comfort and feeling like I'm guided towards him, whether I'm right or wrong, or I can spend my life feeling lost, feeling scared, feeling like I'm never going to see him again, like he's not with me, whether I'm right or wrong. And so, because we have no way of knowing which one for sure 100% is real, at least for me, I'd much rather have the first option where I am full of hope and faith and love and gratitude rather than the second option, which is full of fear, doubt, pessimism, and just feeling lost. And it can take a while to get from one camp to the other, but if you really practice and want to get there, it is absolutely accessible to you. And the more that you try these things, the more that you practice giving them unwavering faith, looking for signs from them, going where your intuition tells you to, getting out in nature, and practicing some of those other modalities that I brought up, your past loved one will come in more frequently and more easily because they know you are listening. You are learning this language together. So while you are putting in this effort, they are putting in effort on their end as well. And I believe that it will get to the point where you don't have to sit in a dark room for 15 minutes to, try to tap into their communication and receive messages from them. I do think it's always a helpful practice to come back to if you're really wanting to connect with them. But for me, most days, I feel my dad's presence with me throughout most of the day. And I'm not always conscious of it, but I can ask a question and feel like I have reassurance shortly thereafter. And yes, I have to be intentional if I want to have a full conversation with him, but I feel like he is with me all the time. And that is very much a product of both of us practicing and learning this language together. And I think the really beautiful thing about it is you will learn your own language and your own way of communicating with your past loved one that is unique to you and unique to your past loved one. And, it may have some of the things that I mentioned here. It may have different things that I don't mention, and all of it is right. And all of it is beautiful. And all of it is just a part of how you and your past loved one are meant to communicate together. Whenever you are struggling to connect with them, I would highly encourage you to show gratitude often and come back to faith. So, really setting the intention that whenever you see a sign from them, instead of doubting it, you're saying, "Thank you so much for sending me this sign." And also to really, as best as you can, to give them that unwavering faith and know that whether you're right or wrong, at least you're living a life that's full of hope and love and optimism. And the more that we are in that energy of gratitude, the more that we will be in a frequency and in alignment to receive more. And even like, today I've been having kind of a hard week, if I'm being totally honest. And so today what I'm really working on is just to feel gratitude for everything that's in this present moment, not the things that might come or might happen, but just to recognize all of the beautiful, magical little miracles that are around me all the time. And it's things like that that will put us into that mindset of receiving guidance and messages from our past loved ones. And this, a lot of what I mentioned really is applicable to other past loved ones, your higher self, your spirit guides, angels, ancestors, whoever it is that you want to connect with on the other side. So I would recommend starting with one past loved one, but definitely as you're doing this, please feel free to explore and expand to all souls in the 5D that you want to connect with, because they are definitely there and here and ready to connect with you. And even souls here in the 3D, in nature and Mother Earth and all of those things, connecting deeply with all of those souls can really change the course of your life. It did for me, and I hope that if you try these, it'll have a really big impact for you as well. So that's all I have for this week, and that wraps up our How to Talk to Dead People series across 2 episodes. I hope that you found it helpful. I know that it was like a lot of information that was thrown. So next week I'll try and do one that's a little bit more conversational, but still obviously give you tips and ways that you can apply it to your life, because I always want to make sure that you are gaining practical things from this podcast that you can go out and utilize yourself. And this is not to toot my own horn in any way, shape, or form, but I've been trying to find another spirituality podcast to listen to. And I do have some ones, that I've been a guest on or that have come on here that are great. But I was listening to one this week that is a very popular spirituality podcast. And I was like, oh, I'd love to try this, see what it is. And the entire episode was just them pushing their coaching program that costs thousands of dollars. And so I'm not saying that, there isn't a place for that type of content. Obviously, people somewhere are enjoying it, but that is never going to be my intention, to come on here and sell you stuff or, want you to go do this thing. Sure, I might mention something that I'm working on, but it was like the entire episode is here's why you should pay thousands of dollars for her coaching program so that you can become a coach yourself. And I was just like, okay, I'm done with this. I'd honestly rather listen to my own podcast. So not to toot my own horn, which I don't do very often, but just be careful who you're listening to and make sure that the advice that you're taking feels right to you and it doesn't feel scammy and it doesn't feel like someone is just trying to sell you something, because in my opinion, that is the exact opposite of what the spiritual world should be, what the content should be that we're putting out there. I'm a firm believer that if I put things out there with the intention of spreading love and joy and enlightenment, that the universe will repay me tenfold for the service that I'm doing. And I have that faith, and sometimes I struggle with it, but I'd rather operate my way and just allow the universe to surprise me with what they have to come through than to shove a program down people's throats that honestly costs so much money and sounds a little bit scammy, if I'm being totally honest. So that's the last what I'll say about that. But if you enjoyed this podcast, if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and share it with a friend. That would mean so much to me. You can also rate, review, and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok and YouTube at Guided Soul Katie. And until next time, keep going. You're doing amazing. And I love you.